Security, orchestration, automation and response. On the CISSP exam, you may see a question about SOAR, security, orchestration, automation and response, and it's exactly how it sounds. It is an automated incident response using collection of different technologies. So we are combining a lot of different technologies to provide an automated incident response, and that's what SOAR is comprised of. SOAR is designed to reduce the workload of manual incident response by automating this response to common incident that we might see. This is going to help reduce human error, reduce the overall workload for our analyst, our engineer, and provide for quicker response time, because SOAR will provide an automatic response that configured based on threat intelligence, assessment result and more. So the way it works is you are going to collect all of your security data across the entire enterprise or across the system, if you will. You are going to collect this data in regards to user, device, application, the infrastructure, and you are going to do this for both on-prem and off-prem solution, and that could be in the cloud or at the recovery site or whatever it might be. And we would normally use a security information and event manager to do this. This is what we would use to collect the data. Then we would move into the detection, where we would try to minimize false positive using good threat intelligence. So as part of the detection, we are focused on all of the data that was collected, and now we want to sort through it, and we want to make sure that we are not responding to false positive, because that takes a lot of overhead, it takes a lot of analysis and so on. So we want to minimize those as much as possible. So we are going to use analytics to correlate alert and incident that minimize the number of events that require a response from us. Then we would use artificial intelligence or machine learning to determine the best course of action based on what information we have in front of us. And lastly, we would respond. We would execute playbook steps to automatically respond and prevent an incident. So this helps us to understand the scope and to find the root cause of a potential security threat. Using SOAR, we are proactively hunting for security threats across our organization data sources, and then we are going to minimize all those false positive and then respond to the event that we have remaining. And how we would automate the response here is we would use playbook. The playbook is a set of action that automate the investigation and response process. There is also a runbook which is used to execute the playbook within the source software. So in other words, if an event is detected, the runbook will execute the step inside the playbook. So some vendor will refer to this differently. There's really no good way to define this, but in actually think of the runbook as the script that going to call everything within the playbook. So if you are familiar with Shape as an automation software, you have the cookbook. The cookbook will call the recipe, and those recipe will define the configuration. This is very much similar in this regard, where the runbook is executing the different playbook. There might be more than one playbook. So in Shape speak, this is your cookbook and playbook are your recipes. So these are all the different action to respond to different events. So runbook might call 1, 2, 3 different playbook together, and now we are going to execute those different steps. And imagine doing this in a manual sense. That is exactly why we use SOAR to orchestrate and automate this response process and remove us from that manual process. Okay, so hopefully this makes sense. Now you don't need to know all for this exam, you just need to know that a runbook and playbook is used for. I just wanted to give you a demonstration real quick of how these are used within the security orchestration and automation response. So the bottom line for this video is understand the purpose of SOAR and also understand the purpose of playbook, workbook or runbook. However, you see the technology depending on the vendor.